wave of superstar hopefuls. Say hello to St. Kitts and Nevis. The wait is over. Petition Superstar 2025 has begun, and we're dropping the first wave of superstar hopefuls. Say hello to Iquanja Bradley, Cheslin Ward, Vinette Richardson, Denicia Henry, and Nikita Sage. This is just the beginning. Stay tuned right here on ZIZ for the next wave of names and for the updates, drama, and Petition Superstar moments.
Every Saturday from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., ZIZ Radio goes into overdrive with the Magic Fingers Ronnie Rascal Mega Mix Show. You heard? Lock your dial to 96.1 FM. It's the show that brings the vibes to your Saturday afternoon lime, bar hopping, party hangouts, or just driving around. You don't want to miss the Saturday Mega Mix Show. You don't want to miss the Saturday Mega Mix Show. It's old school and new school remixes by yours truly, Magic Fingers, Ronnie Rascal, every Saturday from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. ZIZ Radio.
Good morning, St. Kitts and Nevis, and welcome to The Edge here on ZIZ Radio 96.1 FM. I'm Devon Cornelius, and thank you for joining me in the program for today, Thursday, October 9th, 2025. It is 11:05. When we open the phone lines later, you may call us at 465-1977 or 1903. This conversation is also live via our social media platforms, ZIZ Broadcasting Corporation on Facebook and ZIZ Online on YouTube. And of course, we are on ZIZ TV Channel 5. In studio with me today is Special Advisor to the Prime Minister, Mr. Austin Edinburgh. Good morning, Mr. Edinburgh, and welcome back.
Good morning, Devon. Let me say, welcome back. I mean, you know, we're in new surroundings.
Yes, first time back since our new studio. So, new surroundings, same program.
Exactly.
All right. So, we are here, Mr. Edinburgh, to speak about the Special Sustainability Zones Authorization Bill or Authorization Act.
Yes, it is an act now.
Right? And specifically, comments from Charles Wilkin.
It's Charles Wilkin, KC.
On the Special Sustainability Zones Authorization Act. So I am going to let you, give a brief introduction as to, what we're going to dive into today. And then later on in the program, we'll open up the phone lines to get some comments, questions, and so on. Go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you, Devon. Before we get into the Special Sustainability Zones Act, let me just say briefly, because this is in the ear as well.
Okay.
And the Prime Minister, when he was on his roundtable, spoke to an ongoing situation in the south, on Friars Beach.
Okay.
And I just want to say that, and I know that for a fact, that what the Prime Minister is doing is to ensure that whatever happens, everybody wins. A major project is expected to develop there, which will have enormous economic benefits. But there were persons who operated on that beach, and as the Prime Minister said, he's ensuring that whatever become of the situation, he will ensure that we have the development, but he will ensure that locals who are transacting business on the beach is able to continue to transact business in the manner that they were on another beach. And so it's a win-win situation. And I'm sure that as time goes on, you'll hear more about it. But Devon, on August 11th, the Special Sustainability Zones Authorization Act was passed into Parliament. And since then, there has been a lot of things that has been said. But most of what has been said, Devon, does not focus on what the Act says. They are focusing on other things, including a political issue in Nevis. And I want to say that I am not getting involved in Nevis politics. Because the Constitution gives them the right. The Nevisians are citizens residing and voting in Nevis. That's given them the right to deal with certain specific matters, and the sale of land is one of them. And I'm not getting into that. However, the act that we are dealing with is an act for St. Kitts and Nevis, and I just want to read its preamble. An act to authorize and empower the Prime Minister with approval of Cabinet and, if necessary, the Nevis Island Administration to enter into development agreements for the establishment of special sustainability zones on real property within St. Christopher and Nevis, and to provide for related or incidental matters. So this is about economic development in St. Kitts and Nevis. This is about authorizing the Prime Minister to designate. Prime Minister has no authority in this act to establish. And we'll get to that later.
Okay.
Now, recently, Charles Wilkins Casey, however, the publication became public, it became public, but a lot of people have been speaking about it. Some are even saying what he did not actually say, but we all are entitled to our own opinion and public statements. But I also have some serious concerns with some things that the Casey said, which are misleading and if not otherwise interpreted, make persons think that our sovereignty in this SSZ is under threat. And there's nothing further from the truth than that. So let me go to what the Casey wrote. And let me first say that if this was a legal opinion, I wouldn't be here challenging it without having a separate legal opinion done and on the law that we are talking about. But these are just points raised how he thinks about the law. And I know that because a legal opinion on any act would have to take the act section by section and comment on each section of the act. This does not. And it is also referring to other person's perception. Hence, it can't be a legal opinion. But I do have a great understanding of the law and also of our Constitution. And part of that, of my understanding, and to 90% the extent of how I understand law, is because of my training as a police officer. And I graduated top of my class. And one of the things that we had to study in training school was laws and its application, because we had to be able, on minor offenses, to write the charge. Because at that time, the DPP did not present charges in the magistrate court. The chief of police did. And so all of us as police officers had to be able to file a complaint based on the law and present to our prosecutors in the police force what we call a prima facie case. And so therefore, I have a good understanding of the law. So let's go to what the case said. The SSZ Act. The SSZ Act is intended to promote sustainable development authorization zones in the country. Number one, the first thing he said is what I read in the preamble. That the act is intended solely to create sustainable economic zones within St. Kitts and Nevis. But he goes on to say in his second point, in the case of Nevis, there are realistically two main types of development that can require promotion, namely geothermal energy and tourism, particularly high-level hotels and residential developments and related facilities supporting them, such as golf courses and marinas. Well, the last time I checked the Constitution, it is the NIA who has the authority to determine what type of development happens in Nevis. Number three, but the Act goes a lot further and allows the government to hand over to the zone developer all of the powers in respect of a development zone, except foreign affairs, military defense, citizenship, and residence, elections of the court system, and any other right or responsibility not transferable to any other person or entity under the Constitution. Now I want us to pay specific attention to this, because the impression is given that things, especially in the last part about what is not transferable in the Constitution, has been transferred to a developer by this act. And that is untrue. Number four, the development of geothermal can be achieved without government ceding such powers to a developer. Likewise, with tourism development, the major hotel development in Nevis, the highly reputable Four Seasons, has not required to be given such governmental powers. Why are potential competitors to be given such powers? And this is what I want to hone in on. Because this St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party administration has no proposal before it up until now. He's talking about some development in Nevis that is in some other people's minds. I will say that the Prime Minister has spoken, or the Premier, of Nevis has spoken on something that is being negotiated. But in his last press conference, he said that that project that is intended is in its initial stage of negotiations. So which means it is not even before the NIA for a decision as yet. because they're just in the initial stages. And if it is not before the NIA for a decision, then it is certainly not before the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. So how could you be referring, really, in reality and honesty, referring to it as a proposal under the SSZ? It's not there yet. And so to refer to it in that manner is premature. And to refer to it as something that is threatening our sovereignty based on it being a project is disingenuous. 5. I'm not at all surprised, therefore, that a widely held perception in the act allows for government to create a state within a state, or a second government with the zone having powers over some matters other than the exceptions in 3. Really? Charles, where did you get that opinion? And this is what I'm talking about. He is speaking about other people's perception on something that is yet to happen. It is okay for persons to have opinions. If there is something in the air about something that is to happen in your country, it is okay for you to have an opinion on it. But when a Kessie writes on it as if it is a given, then I find that to be disappointing. 6. There are many other issues on which the Act is silent. These includes what specifically government can do under the Act with zone beach access, the right of local landowners to refuse to sell their land to a developer, with government compulsory acquire that land, establishing and using ports. He said ports, looks like it is saying Sioux, and here, immigration, customs, land, law, professional services, etc., etc. And he goes on to speak about the police as well. Now, what is disingenuous about this? What do I find to be extremely disingenuous about this? Is that very early, I think it is number 2, number 3, where he wrote on the things that can't be ceded, and he wrote on the specific items that were named out, like military defense, etc., etc. He says that the law is unclear. So it's important that we show that the law is not unclear. Let us take, for instance, law. And let us go to section 65 of the Constitution. And it speaks about the control of the public prosecutions. It says, there shall be a director of public prosecution whose office shall be a public office. The director of public prosecution shall have power in any case in which he considers it desirable so to do. A, institute and undertake criminal proceedings against any person before any court of law other than a court material, other than in a court material in respect of any offense under a law alleged to have been committed by that person. To take over and continue any such criminal proceedings that have been instituted or undertaken by any other person or authority. And C, to discontinue at any stage before judgment is delivered any such criminal proceedings instituted or undertaken by himself or any other person or authority. Devon, this can't be transferred. Nobody else, other than the Director of Public Prosecution, has the constitutional authority to undertake criminal proceedings as it relates to offending the law. But the Constitution itself says that there's only one state, the state of St. Christopher and Nevis. And so that any land within the state of St. Christopher and Nevis is governed by the laws of St. Kitts and Nevis. That cannot be transferred. So some people may gloss over that statement in the SSZ. But that particular portion of the SSZ is far-reaching and wide. It takes away any of the things. The other point I would like to raise, the SSZ says specifically that one of the prerequisite conditions for consideration of being designated under the Act, the proposed developer must come with his land already purchased. The proposed developer, if he doesn't own the land, must come with an agreement to lease or purchase before a proposal can be considered. So how the heck does Charles Wilkin KC talk about compelling people to sell land and acquiring land by the government as part of the Special Sustainability Act? How? When the Act says clearly, and where's the section that deals with that? Because, this kind of disingenuous behavior really gets to me. I think it is in the conditions to develop agreements.
That's in the SSZ Act?
In the SSZ Act. And it is section 5, subsection D, which states, the zone developer shall provide evidence of ownership or lease or of agreement to purchase or lease the real property comprising the area as of the time of entering the development agreement. It is there in black and white in the SSZ. So how does Charles Wilkin gives an opinion to anybody, and I'm not saying a legal opinion because this is not a legal opinion, but how does he give an opinion to anyone stating that there's a possibility of compelling people to sell land under the SSZ. That's my concern. And that's why I call it disingenuous. Because Charles Wilkins can read. I know Charles Wilkins can read. And I know that he knows what the act says. So why does he choose to omit that? But Devon, there is something that is even more compelling in this act before any zone can be established. It's Section 7, Ratification and Declaration Requirement. A development agreement containing provisions preferenced in Section 6 to F through L, or is it I? I think it's L.
You're reading Declaration and Ratification?
Yes.
From
I think it's L. It says development agreement containing provision reference in. Let me just look at that section, and I'll be able to tell you whether it's L. I think it's L. No, it would have been. It's L. Mm-hmm. But anyhow, that's what it is saying. A development agreement containing provisions referenced in Section 6 to F through L shall be ratified by and contained in a law passed by the National Assembly of St. Christopher and Nevis, if the area is within the island of Nevis, also by the Nevis Island Assembly. Let me tell you what this section is saying. That before any zone can be established, and we're talking about establishing the zone now, there must be an act in the Parliament of St. Kitts and Nevis. It must be a law. Each proposal will have to undergo the scrutiny and approval of Parliament. So that means that all of us will get an opportunity to know what is in the proposal before a zone can be established. Interestingly, Charles Wilkins didn't refer to this section. This is what establishes. Parliament is who, by this action, establishes a zone. The Prime Minister designates it. And the reason why the Prime Minister designates such a zone is because he, as Prime Minister, must be the person to say, okay, it has passed Parliament, now this is designated a zone. You can't pass that to a line minister. Because the line minister does something that the Prime Minister doesn't want. Once it is passed to the line minister, it is out of the control of the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. And such a decision should not be out of the control of the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. But I'm saying there is so many rail guards in this act that I don't know why those who are critical do not refer to them. And let me read another section of our Constitution.
Before we go, though, let's take a break, okay, because it's 11:32, so we'll take a break.
And then I'll read that one, and then after that we get to the telephone.
Let's take this break.
For life's finest moments, celebrate them with Skol Premium Lager. Pure malt, pure class, pure perfection. Skol, class and perfection in a bottle.
At Dental Beginnings, where it all begins with your smile, we provide quality dental care, catering to the needs of the whole family. Where gentleness is our specialty and attention to detail is paramount. We offer cleanings, fillings, crown and bridge, root canals, extractions, digital x-rays, and sealants. Dental Beginnings, located at Victoria Road, Bastyr, St. Kitts. Call us at 869-668-1955 or 869-465-1951. Email us at dentalbeginnings@gmail.com or visit our Facebook page. Dental Beginnings. It all begins with a smile.
Welcome back to the Ed Sheehan ZIZ Radio 96.1 FM. For those of you who are just tuning in, we have in studio with us today Austin Edinburgh, Special Advisor in the Prime Minister's Office, and we are speaking on the Special Sustainability Zones Act bill. And recently, we're looking at comments that were made by Charles Wilkin and Edinburgh. Mr. Edinburgh is here giving his take on those comments as it relates to the Act. Mr. Edinburgh?
Thank you very much. I want to read another section of the Constitution, Section 78. And then I would say a few brief things about it. And of course, you're free to open up the line after that if you so desire, except you have any questions for me. Now, 78 of the Constitution, 78(1), it says, subject to Section 87, the powers to appoint persons to hold or act in offices in the public service, including the power to confirm appointments and the power to exercise disciplinary control over the persons holding or acting in such offices, and the power to remove such person from office shall vest in the Governor General. You hear with that? Mm-hmm. And I'm saying, the powers of the Governor General cannot be transferred. But it goes on further. Acting in accordance with the recommendation of the Public Service Commission, hereinafter in this section referred to as the Commission. The Governor General, you hear who it is? The Governor General, acting in accordance with the recommendation of the Commission, may, by directions in writing and subject to such conditions as he thinks fit, should be he or she, delegate any of his power under subsection 1 to any one or more members of the Commission, or with the consent of the Prime Minister to any public officer. Now, what the Constitution is saying, the only person who can cede that power to anybody is the Governor General. And it must be to the commission members or a public officer once there is consultation and she has the consent of the Prime Minister. You understand what I'm saying? The Governor General can't just give it to anybody outside of the persons mentioned in the Constitution. But we go on a little further. Subsection 3. The provisions of this section shall not apply in relation to the following offices. That is to say, so these are things that she now can't delegate, or he. It says the provisions of this section shall not apply in relation to the following offices. That is to say, A, any office to which section 79 applies. So I want to say to those, get a copy of the Constitution, read this section 78 and follow the sections, because the time doesn't allow it this morning. B, the office of the Attorney General. Can't cede it to nobody. C, the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. The Governor General can't cede it to anybody. The office of the Director of Audit. Any office, that's the E, any office to which Section 83 applies. Or F, any office in the police force. Let me read it again. Or F, any office in the police force. So, Charles, I'm going to ask you, did you forget this section of the Constitution? When you mention policing in the opinions that you gave? And I want to say, like any other big supermarket or hotels, developments may have their own security firms or contractor security firms, a firm to provide security. No, they have authority, some authority within the particular boundaries of the business to do certain things, but nothing that is in the preservation of the police force.
It's 11:41, Mr. Edinburgh, and we're going to open the phone lines now and take your calls at 465-1977 or 1903. But looking at the Special Sustainability Zones bill and referencing parts of the Constitution, looking at the comments here from Charles Wilkin, and of course listening to the comments that were made over the past couple of weeks, a lot of attention or concerns, concerns, questions have been raised as it relates to the powers and the control and what have you, right? Hence the reason why persons have been referencing, well, this is what the Constitution says, and nothing trumps the Constitution. Nothing goes over the Constitution, right? Now, there is a concern that the Act gives significant powers to zone developers. Based off of your understanding, is that so? And the second question is, the law says that zone laws must still be passed by the National Assembly or the Nevis Island Assembly. Does that safeguard the abuse of power within that zone?
Well, firstly,
or is that enough safeguard then to go to the National Assembly and the Nevis Island Assembly?
I want to say that the Constitution itself says that any law that is passed in St. Kitts and Nevis, if it conflicts with the Constitution takes precedence. Let me say that again. The Constitution itself says that any laws passed in St. Kitts and Nevis, if it conflicts with anything written in the Constitution takes precedence. And so, because whatever zone it is within the sea, land, and air area that is St. Christopher and Nevis, it is under the control of the Constitution. This Special Sustainability Authorization Act in itself has enormous rail guards. But just in case there's anything missing, there is a Constitution.
As you mentioned the Constitution, do you foresee this bill facing legal challenges or constitutional review? Or the bill in itself facing legal challenges?
Well, a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis, and the Constitution gives them that right. If they feel that any act that is passed violate their rights, that they can go to the Supreme Court, which is our High Court, we call it now, and lodge a complaint. Can't go to the Magistrate Court. The court of first instance is the High Court. So they can go there and file a complaint. They can lodge a case. It doesn't require, such a case doesn't require the government, the Office of the Attorney General, or the Office of the DPP. The individual citizen, you have to be a citizen, the individual citizen can go to the court and start their own proceedings. So, if persons feel that it's against, I don't know if we'll find challenges to the SSZ. I don't know how it's going to make a difference, I'll tell you the truth, because when I look at this act, there is so many safeguards in there for the rights and the laws of St. Christopher and Nevis that I can't see how it would make sense. But whether or not there would be legal challenges, I can't say. I would say that the chances of succeeding is slim to nothing. Because this law, really and truly, you see that last section of the restrictions in terms of the development, which speaks to the, I would like to read it from the Act itself, rather than to go to the, I think it's section 5, if I'm not mistaken, it's in section 5. Or 6, section 6. So let me read it. And nobody's saying this either, eh? These are the conditions that they must acknowledge explicitly. It says, I provide for express acknowledgement that the following government matters are within the exclusive legislative, governance, and administrative domain and control of the government of St. Christopher and Nevis, and the Nevis Island Administration where applicable. Whether within the special sustainability zones or otherwise located in St. Christopher and Nevis. It says, 1, foreign affairs, including treaty negotiations, executions, and ratification. Military defense, citizenship and residence, elections related to the National Assembly or the Nevis Island Assembly, and registration of voters. Jurisdiction of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, Caribbean Court of Justice, and Judicial Committee of the Privy Council. We are stipulated as exclusive jurisdiction by the Constitution. And 6, any obligation, right or responsibility not transferable to any other person or entity under the Constitution. I can't see how you can successfully challenge a court or challenge this law to say that it impinges on your right when it has safeguards like these in it. Whatever is the argument in Nevis, whatever is the problem with what is being negotiated, I can't even call it a proposed development yet because it didn't get to that stage. Whatever it is that they're having a problem with, that does not relate to this act. That's the point I'm making.
The bill mentions the possibility of an independent oversight body. What is your position on that?
Well, this again provides safeguards and allows for continued due diligence. Persons can conform when they enter into the agreement and conform with certain things that the deadlines, etc., that they must meet. But once they have established, they start doing things that happens all over the world that they are not supposed to do. And so the oversight committees, and I say committees, because if the real property is in Nevis, then the Premier will establish that oversight committee. If it is on St. Kitts, then the Prime Minister will establish that oversight committee. So these oversight committees are to monitor. After the zone has been established and the zone is going on, these oversight committees are to establish to ensure, to monitor and ensure that all operations happening within the zone is in keeping with what is in the development agreement.
Looking back at what Mr. Wilkin mentioned in the comments here, right, in number 6, it says there are many other issues on which the Act is silent. These include what specifically government can do under the Act. And then he made the list of different things and so on.
And,
right?
and that includes policing and
Policing,
exactly.
land law, customs, etc., right? Now, I stand to be corrected, but is it a case of Mr. Wilkin mentioning these as to say they should have been mentioned specifically in the Act so you know exactly where you are, rather than, but I don't want to say rather than. So the Constitution is clear, right? But is it the case where he's saying the Act should have specifically said this is what exactly could happen as it relates to Social Security, land law, customs, immigration, etc., etc., etc. Hence the question I asked earlier about facing legal challenges and constitutional review and so on.
Now, I'm not going to think for Charles Wilkin.
Which is fine.
I'm not going to think for him. If that is what he wants to say, then he is vague.
Okay. Because from reading it and knowing exactly what the Constitution says, this is what is being suggested to me. That he's saying that the Act should have said these things. But the Constitution is clear that it does not trump immigration, citizenship, security, etc., etc., etc.
But I'm just saying, how are you going to complain about being not clear when you are not clear? and I'll tell you this. If that is what he's saying, I have no problem with that. But he commented on being vague, so I'm a little bit confused about what he's saying there. It can and it has misled people. If that is what he is saying, other people who have read that are expressing different opinion on that very same point. And so he's unclear.
It's 11:53. We're gonna wrap up just now. And as I said, not on this program, but in everyday conversation with people as it relates to the Special Sustainability Zones Act, bill, whatever.
No, it's now an act. It's no longer a bill.
Read it for yourself.
Exactly.
And refer to parts of the Constitution where you have to. Get as much understanding as it is. But there's one part of it that I also note that people have been asking questions, and this is what I asked you earlier, which relates to the independent oversight body, where the question is, how would those bodies become independent if it is the Prime Minister or the Premier would establish those bodies? Or what mechanisms would be in place to ensure that those independent oversight bodies maintain their independence, if you understand what I mean?
All right. Here's what I would say to that, and it's a very good question. I have confidence in Prime Minister Joe that if he establishes an oversight body, if there is a project on the real property in St. Kitts, that he will let them function as they should. I can only speak about the confidence I have in him. If the people of Nevis have no confidence in Premier Brantley that he would do that, then that's a matter for them. However, recommendations can be made for certain persons, etc. It is still, even if you have certain offices being a part of the commission, it is still going to be the Prime Minister or the Premier that establishes them. I also have confidence in the people in St. Kitts that they are not yes men and women, because I ain't none. But in spite of the fact that I'm the Prime Minister's advisor, I am not no yes man.
But moving away from the individuals, which is Dr. Terence Drew and Mark Brantley, it still says that the Prime Minister and the Premier.
Yes.
So it therefore means that whoever is the Prime Minister tomorrow.
Exactly.
Right. So you understand where
I understand where it's
the
coming
issue
from.
is. So even though you have confidence in Dr. Drew that the independent oversight body will be allowed to function, we don't know what tomorrow holds.
Certainly
10 years from now, 15 years from now, you don't know if that Prime Minister or that Premier, whoever they may be, might allow this independent oversight body to properly function. And that is where a lot of the concern is.
And I would say that our Constitution also provides freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom to demonstrate, freedom to protest. And if you are dissatisfied with how a particular public official is performing his duty, especially one that requires you to vote for him or not for him, it will not last forever. That is as much as I could say.
All right, we are out of time. We're gonna have to continue the conversation.
Of course. Devon, this topic is a very big topic.
It is.
If I had to go into the Constitution in relation to all of the sections of this, people really have nothing to worry about.
All right, you've been listening to the Ed Sheehan ZIZ Radio 96.1 FM. Until next time, you guys stay safe. Coming up now is our midday newscast.